Thanks for joining us today for another webinar from our Exploring Digital series. This time looking at tapping into the mobile gaming audience. Before we start our presentation, if you have any questions about the content, please feel free to type it into the Q&A chat box on the left-hand side. And we will do our best to answer it at the end of our presentation. So to start, my name is Eduardo Mena. I'm a director on the media team at Ipsos, and I look after our gaming proposition and our main flagship study, GameTrack. I'll be joined today by Matt, who is our inside lead on Ipsos Iris, our online audience measurement tool. GameTrack is a study we run since 2011 on behalf of Video Games Europe, the National Trade Association of Video Games for the European Union. This study runs across many European countries and the UK, and we look at the video game habits across devices, consoles, portables, PCs, and mobile devices, and also video game distribution formats, physical and digital. And within the digital, we look at app games, full game download, extra downloadable content, and the different subscription model services. All these across the wide 6 to 64 demographic from each country. Ipsos Iris is an online measurement tool and passively tracks the online behavior of 10,000 plus a strong panel, which is then combined with data collected from extensive online tagging to create a very rich picture of people's online behavior. Our solution is the only one endorsed by UCOM, the body of online measuring in the UK. Today, we bring the results from these two major studies. One about the state of the play of the video game market, and the other one about the measurement of people's online behavior to talk about gaming and the importance of mobile gaming audience, those who play app games on smartphones and tablets, and the rising relevance of mobile gaming as a media channel. And it is not a secret that mobile gaming is having a moment. We have seen in GameTrack and Ipsos Iris that mobile gaming is growing, and businesses are beginning to realize its potential. Video game publishers have identified that most gamers now play mobile app games and have been investing to tap into this fast-growing audience. We have witnessed large acquisitions in the past, from Activision acquiring King, Candy Crush publisher back in 2015, Tencent then acquired Supercell, Sega even acquiring Rovio back last year, and maybe the most recent and relevant, Microsoft acquiring then Activision last year, giving access to this growing mobile gaming audience to consolidate their gaming presence across console, PC, and mobile devices. Now looking at media brands, the New York Times has built on the success of Wordle with a whole suite of mini games, while Netflix has stated their intention to become a destination for most played games. These are clear examples of diversification, using mobile to get closer to their audiences. And then we got a growing number of brands realizing the power of mobile gaming for partnerships. We have even seen Eileen Hallam appearing the first real character in Clash of Clans. And last year, Megan Trainor launched the video for her single Made You Look exclusively in Candy Crush for the first 24 hours. So why should business invest in mobile gaming? Yes, looking at GameTrack and Ipsos Iris, we have identified some reasons why. In fact, we have identified 5. First, importance to the overall video game ecosystem, and it's just recognizing that gaming is a truly mainstream activity enjoyed by most, with mobile gaming also growing and growing across audiences, rising in relative relevance versus other devices. Also, it is a high engagement medium, despite the other multiple media channels fighting for people's time and attention. Mobile gamers are still active and playing video games, but they do not only play those games. They are a very versatile audience, which at the very end offers targeted gaming audiences. With thousands of app games, audiences are quite well spread, but they also naturally congregate around relevant app games. So let's start. Mobile has definitely changed the game. And it's not a secret that gaming has gone mainstream. From GameTrack, we have established that more of the overall population in the UK play video games on any device. And this equates around 26 million people in the UK. Compared to the other Euro 5 countries, UK incidence is in the ballpark. The lower than Germany, France, and Spain, but higher than Italy. Therefore, it is still room to grow when compared to other countries. Gaming is also not an static channel. In fact, we have seen how gaming has increased in the country. The proportion of people who play video games has increased steadily from back in 2012, from 45% to more than half of the population at the end of 2023. During this period, we have seen release of new devices, new console generations, and great video games across devices, all driving a new audience to play video games. These have contributed with an extra 4 million gamers since 2012. Gaming is now a truly widespread and appreciated source of entertainment in the UK. And it's also a solid view for the growth for the years to come based on the evolution of the medium. Particularly, app gaming has driven this gaming uptake amongst the overall population in the UK. Looking at the overall incidence of playing games by device, we can see the evolution of mobile gaming from 1 in 4 back in 2012 to a nearly 4 in 10 by the end of 2023. This means an increase of 13 percentage points, which actually is bringing nearly 7 million mobile gamers into this device since 2012. This compares to the relative stability of console gaming, which wobbles around 1 in 3 playing on console games, just moving around key devices or game releases since. On the other hand, we have seen how PC gaming reach has decreased from 1 in 3 in 2012 to nearly 1 in 5 at the end of 2023, dropping the more casual PC gamers, but keeping the core and the more dedicated niche audience around key PC games. Mobile gaming actually has renewed and refreshed the overall gaming audience to be now the most popular gaming device in the UK and accounting for 70% of the overall gaming population. And now, to look at the overall engagement of gaming, we follow the average gaming time players invest playing video games across any device. And on average, a gamer in the UK has played for around 11 hours across devices. And as you can see in the graphic, it's been very stable over time. During 2020, yes, we saw how engagement peaked for the first half of the year, which then came back to normal levels previously seen. And we know that it was due to the global pandemic. This higher engagement actually continued during 2021 and is finally during 2022, with gaming actually somewhat different. And there were more gamers in the market, but actually all engagement and contributing to this unchanged gaming time. And one of the key reasons for this is that mobile gaming has augmented the gaming ecosystem, now accounting for a third of the overall gaming time across devices, from 18% it used to account in 2022 to a third at the end of 2023. This is a direct reflection of more people gaming on those devices, and these gamers playing for longer and or more frequently. And we need to understand that this open a new, constant, and attentive channel for this important audience, who account for 70% of the population, of the gaming population in the UK. And it is not a secret that is not only about the number of gamers or a stable gaming time and enjoying that people are enjoying in the medium. It's also about the increased revenue generated by video game sales for the UK video game industry. We have seen this strong trend since 2012, when we estimated the value of the video game market to be around 1.7 billion pounds, and since increasing year on year, reaching nearly 5 billion pounds during the 2023, a new record for the overall video game industry. A market that has increased by nearly 3 times in the past 12 years since we started GameTrack. Even though most of gaming apps and most of mobile apps games follow the free-to-play business model, revenue for in-app purchases has been powering this growth over time. Mobile gaming revenues have increased 10 times since 2012, from 200 million to now drive around 2 billion since 2020, and consistently delivering that. Mobile app gaming now contributes with a really strong 42% of the overall revenue generated in the UK from video game sales. As important as console gaming, which generate around the same 43% during 2023. This estimate excludes any revenues generated by publishers via in-game advertising, which is also on the rise and is forecast to grow. So up to here, we have seen that gaming is a truly mainstream and relevant activity, and that mobile gaming is an important part of this ecosystem now, which drives 70% of the gamers in the UK. And those gamers invest a third of the gaming time and attention on mobile games. And this generates nearly 42% of the 2023 video game sales revenue, mostly via in-app purchases. And at this point, I hand out this presentation to Matt, who will unveil some useful tips to understand this mobile gaming audience even better.
Lovely, thank you, Ed. So we've seen from Ed and from GameTrack how mobile has changed the game, but it's also changed the gamer. So in Iris, just like Ed was describing in GameTrack, we can see that mobile has taken gaming mainstream. Now, a bit of housekeeping at this stage. So everything you see from here on out is from Ipsos Iris, which is looking at all internet users in the UK age 15 plus. And this is slightly different from the universe Ed and GameTrack covers, which is the total population age 6 to 64. So in Iris, we aren't measuring children, i.e. those age 6 to 14, but unlike GameTrack, we are capturing internet users age 65 and over, which, as we see as we go through the deck, are quite an interesting group when it comes to mobile gaming. But back to the chart, and as you can see, the number of internet users age 15 plus playing mobile games has grown significantly, even if we look over the last 2 years. In fact, it's increased by almost 25% from 20 to 25 million people, which equates to over half of all internet users per month. So gaming offers advertisers huge reach. And it does this daily too. Mobile games reach over a quarter of internet users a day. That's around 13 million people. In fact, reach is even higher among women. 55% of women played a mobile game in the month of April, in yellow on the right there, compared to 45% of men in green. Now, I think that by now, for most of us on the call, it won't necessarily be new news that women are more likely to be playing mobile games compared to men. But in Iris, we can see this consistent across all demographics. All of them, that is, except for the top there, where you can see that younger males are, admittedly only very slightly, the group with the highest reach on this slide. So for mobile gaming, just like consoles and PCs that Ed was talking about, it is still true that mobile games provide a great means of reaching those 15 to 24-year-old males I think we all know can be harder to reach. But as I say, mobile gaming has changed the gamer. As I put it at the top there, there's no such thing as a typical mobile gamer anymore. That's because mobile games reach a much broader audience and are just as strong at reaching women aged 15 to 24 or 45 to 54, as I've highlighted on this slide. So I guess what you could say is it's a case of evolution, not revolution. That mobile gaming hasn't changed the traditional strengths of gaming, but it has greatly expanded them. So the third reason you should be investing in mobile gaming is that it's high engagement. Or to put it another way, it puts the game into engagement. And that might be where we peak today. So engagement, like reach, has been steadily increasing over the last 2 years, peaking at almost 15 hours a month in April 2024, which works out an average of almost half an hour a day, which, given the fragmented nature of the online landscape, is a significant amount of time. In fact, mobile gaming accounts for 6% of all the time spent on smartphones and tablets that we measure in Ipsos Iris. If we look specifically at gamers, it accounts for 10% of the time they spend on their phones or tablets. So for mobile gamers, what we're saying is that 1 in every 10 minutes on their mobile devices is spent gaming. That's a huge chunk of time. So this presents a huge opportunity for advertisers to reach this incredibly engaged audience. And once again, it is particularly true for women, who spend 40% longer a month on average playing mobile games compared to men. So it's around 12 hours a month for men on the left there in green, compared to 17 hours a month for women there in the orange. And again, we can look at this broken down by age and see how the gap widens for older audiences. With women aged 45 plus, so the 3 bands I've highlighted now on the slide, being particularly engaged, with all 3 age groups spending over 20 hours playing mobile games on average in April. That's around 45 minutes a day. So while the reach of mobile gaming is greater among younger audiences, engagement is higher amongst older demographics, giving mobile gaming a role to play on marketing plans across all these age groups. And we can see that older audiences also deliver frequency, as they're more likely to be playing every single day. So overall, 18% of mobile gamers, that's the figure in white there in the middle, will play a mobile game on their device every single day. But this rises to 22% of mobile gamers aged 65 and over, which, as you can see, is more than double the number of gamers aged 15 to 24 who are playing daily. So older gamers are higher frequency as well as higher engagement. And what's interesting is they are doing this over the same number of games as younger audiences. So both 15 to 24-year-old gamers and those aged 65 plus played an average of 2.6 games per person in April. So broadly speaking, there are proportionally more younger mobile gamers, but older gamers are playing more frequently and for more time. So for younger audiences, you could say it's more akin to snacking. They're fitting in their mobile gaming habits around other things they're doing online, or possibly playing on other consoles or devices that Ed alluded to earlier. But for older audiences, it appears to be far more habit forming. They're coming back and playing regularly for long periods of time. Now, this will be important context to consider when marketing to these different audiences. How might this influence the mindset they're in while they're playing these games? And how might this affect how you choose to market to them? So reason number 4, you should be investing in mobile gaming is because mobile gamers are an active audience, or gamers get high scores. So far today, we've shown that mobile gamers are an active and engaged audience when it comes to gaming, but they're also much more active online in general. So on this slide, we're looking at their likely to be heavy visitors for some of the top line categories that we measure in Ipsos Iris, with heavy visitors being defined as the top 20% of visitors for time spent in a category. So for example, on the far left, we can see that mobile gamers are 22% more likely to be heavy visitors to the online media category. And this will cover the likes of YouTube, Netflix, news brands, magazine brands, and so on. And they're also more likely to be heavy visitors to social networks as well. So they're going to be some of the heaviest users of the likes of Instagram, TikTok, and Snapchat. But if we take a step back, we can see they are more likely to be heavy visitors to 18 of the 21 categories that we're looking at on this slide. So as I say, they're a very active audience. But for the purposes of today, we're going to focus on 2 of those categories in particular that we think make gamers an attractive audience for advertisers. So the first is social networking, which I've mentioned already, and the second is retail. So yes, mobile gamers are more likely to be heavy visitors to retail. But we can see that they're more likely to spend more time on retail sites in general. So here on the left, we can see that mobile gamers spent over 10 hours on average on retail sites and apps in April. This is compared to around 7.5 hours for non-gamers. So that's essentially 25% longer looking at retail brands over the course of the month. That equates to an extra 5 minutes every day for mobile gamers. And we can see that gamers are doing this over a wider number of brands. So it's shown that mobile gamers visited an average of 28 retail brands in April, compared to 23 for non-mobile gamers. So all of this begins to add up to a very attractive audience. Mobile gamers spend more time shopping online across more brands and are more likely to be some of the heaviest retail visitors. Now, admittedly, while more time doesn't necessarily translate to more purchasing, it at least means more opportunities to convert. And of course, in Iris, we can dig even deeper to see the kind of retailers that they're more likely to be visiting. So what we've done here is we've taken the top 50 biggest online retailers by audience to see where younger and older mobile gamers over-index compared to all internet users their age. So on the left, what we're saying is that younger mobile gamers are 40% more likely to visit Groupon, followed by Co-op Food and Domino's. Now, if we look for a theme amongst the top 5, you could argue it's something like bargains, with AliExpress and Audi complementing the likes of Groupon at the top there. On the right-hand side, we can see that older gamers are most likely to visit Domino's compared to all internet users their age. This is followed by Deliveroo and Uber Eats. So here, I think the theme is a little clearer because it's food. One of the things that sets gamers apart from all internet users in this age bracket is a high likelihood to use food delivery apps. Now, of course, in Iris, we would be able to break this down even further by gender, income, attitude, and other metrics like this. But already this gives a flavor of how you can begin to map out the mobile gaming audience across different demographics. Now, if you remember, the other area I said we're going to look at in more detail was social networking. And again, we can see it goes far beyond those heavy visitors that we were looking at, that mobile gamers in general spend significantly more time on social media. So overall, mobile gamers spent 73 hours in April on social media sites and apps. So that's a little under 2.5 hours a day. That's compared to 45 hours a month for non-mobile gamers, which is around 1.5 hours a day. So it's fairly simple maths to work out that mobile gamers are spending around an hour longer on social media per day, or at least they did in April. That is quite a sizable difference between the two groups. And again, we can drill down further and see what individual social media brands they are most likely to visit. So for both age groups, we can see the reach for each social media platform in April, which is the numbers next to the bar, and then the index next to this for how this compares to all internet users their age. So for example, among younger mobile gamers, pretty much all of them visited YouTube in April, that 99% figure at the top left there. They were 3% more likely to do so compared to all internet users in their age bracket. Instagram and Facebook were the second and third biggest platforms by reach for younger mobile gamers. And for older mobile gamers, it's the same top 3, but with Facebook coming out on top for reach. But again, when we take a step back and look at the slide as a whole, we can see that the indexes show that both groups were more likely to visit all the social media sites featured on the slide in April. So they're more likely to visit all the major social media platforms, with younger gamers most likely to visit Snapchat compared to all internet users their age. Snap is also the highest index for older gamers at the bottom there on the right, but only a very small proportion of older gamers are using Snap, to just 4%. So perhaps a bit more meaningful to highlight TikTok, as they are 29% more likely to be using this platform, as almost 30% of mobile gamers age 65 plus use TikTok in April. So this could be a great way of reaching older mobile gamers for a good partner on a media plan. So the fifth and final reason that we're highlighting today for why you should be investing in mobile gaming is the targeted advertising it enables, or the ability to pick your players. So today we've looked a lot at younger gamers versus older gamers, but the reality is, even within these age groups, communities will form around different mobile games. So for example, these were the top 5 mobile games by reach for younger and older gamers in April. And as you can see, there is no overlap between the lists. They're entirely distinct. So younger gamers are more likely to be playing Roblox, Pokemon Go, and Clash of Clans, while older gamers are playing Solitaire, Candy Crush, and Wordscapes. But what we can simply split these games out by age groups. The reality is that even within these age bands, there'll be different people playing these different games. So that's why we're going to focus on the 3 biggest mobile games, Roblox, Pokemon Go, and Clash of Clans for 15 to 24-year-olds, to tease out some of the differences in the profiles and behaviors of these young people who play these games. So first of all, we're looking at the proportion of these young players who play the game every day. And we can see that an impressive 14% of 15 to 24-year-old Pokemon Go players played every single day in April. That's compared to 7% for Clash of Clans and just 2% for Roblox. Now, obviously, a lot of this will be influenced by the nature of the game, or whether the game incentivizes the player to play every day or to maintain a streak. But even within these three games, we can already see how widely gaming habits may vary. Now, having said that, while Roblox players may be less likely to play every day, you can see on the days they do play, they have very high engagement indeed. So here we're looking at the average minutes played by day of the week. And this will be based on the days where young gamers are actually playing the game. And this reveals that Roblox players have a particular peak at the weekend, where players are playing for over an hour a day. So another good chunk of time. Pokemon Go has a similar, if slightly less pronounced surge at the weekend as well. Now this makes sense for Pokemon, as I'm sure most of us know, the game requires players to go to different locations and catch virtual Pokemon in the real world. So players can afford to spend more time doing this at the weekend when few of them will be in school, studying, or working. And you've got Clash of Clans on the right there, which is a lot flatter, with gamers spending a roughly equal amount of time playing across the course of the week. Now, hopefully insight like this can help understand when might be the best time to reach different players of different games, and maybe even begin to understand the kind of mindset they may be in as they play. Now, we can also see there's some big differences in the profiles of these players. So Roblox, for example, is great for reaching more young female gamers, while Pokemon Go and Clash of Clans skew heavily male, with men accounting for nearly 9 out of 10 Clash of Clans players. So while it's true all three games are great for reaching young people, there are still some noticeable differences in their profiles. Also in Ipsos Iris, we have sexual orientation data, and this shows that Pokemon Go players are almost twice as likely as all internet users aged 15 to 24 to say they are lesbian, gay, bisexual, or that they identify in another way. So Pokemon Go can provide a great means of reaching this LGBT+ audience. Alternatively, we can also see differences in attitudes of players across the different games. So for example, Clash of Clans players are significantly more likely to agree that it's worth paying extra for quality goods. Not just compared to the other two groups of players, but also compared to all internet users their age, as highlighted at the top of the slide there. Whereas Pokemon Go players, on the other hand, are the most likely to agree they like to wear designer clothes. They are twice as likely to agree with the statement as the players of the other two games. They're quite a fashion-forward audience, or at least they self-identify as one. And of course, we can also look at differences in their online activity. So once again, we're looking at the top 50 biggest online retailers to identify the highest indexes. And we can see that Roblox players are significantly more likely to visit Co-op Food, Next, and AliExpress compared to all internet users their age, compared to Pokemon Go players who are most likely to visit the apps and sites of Costa, Argos, and Iceland. Finally, you've got Clash of Clans, heavily male audience, which over-indexes on IKEA, Argos, and Samsung. So again, Argos aside, there's very little duplication on this slide. Each of the games appeals, or over-indexes at least, to different audiences when it comes to retail. So in just a few short slides, we've begun to outline differences in the communities who play these games. So Roblox players play less regularly, but are the most engaged when they play, which is typically at the weekends. They skew female and are less likely to pay high prices for quality goods or designer clothes, hence where they may over-index on sites like AliExpress. Pokemon Go players, on the other hand, play very regularly and longer at the weekend. They skew male and LGBT+, and are particularly likely to say they wear designer clothes. Then you've got your Clash of Clans players who skew very heavily male and don't particularly favour a day of the week to play. They're also more likely to say they are willing to pay for high quality goods. Now, obviously, these profiles are painted with quite a broad brush, and we could use Ipsos Iris to get a much richer picture of these players. But hopefully, we can already see how each of these games will bring something very different to a marketing plan and help to reach some very different young audiences. So this morning, we have highlighted 5 key reasons why we think people should be investing in mobile gaming. So the first was that mobile has changed the game, and it's driving new revenue streams for gaming. So simply put, mobile gaming is growing. It's growing in terms of audience, in terms of engagement, and in terms of revenue, making it an increasingly important part of the overall gaming ecosystem. Which is why, as Ed outlined at the very beginning of this presentation, likes of Microsoft, Netflix, Sega are all investing in this sector. Essentially, if you want to be reaching gamers, it's crucial that mobile gaming is in the mix. So the second reason we highlighted is that mobile has also changed the gamer, and it's unlocking opportunities for growth across audiences. So one of the major reasons mobile gaming is important to the wider gaming ecosystem is because it's attracting and growing new audiences to gaming. This broad reach means mobile gaming can help gaming publishers, advertisers, media owners, and brands in general, all to grow reach across essentially all age groups, which is no small feat in a fragmented media landscape. So the third reason we identified is that it's putting the game into engagement. It's a high engagement medium in a high distraction world. Because in short, mobile gaming's high engagement, high frequency, habit forming content creates a valuable audience, which is therefore a valuable medium for advertisers. So the fourth reason was that gamers get high scores. That a more active audience means more opportunities to convert. Because mobile gamers are more likely to be found on the sites and apps that matter most to advertisers, the ones where they can make a purchase. We've also seen they're more active across a wide range of categories, making this a compelling audience to invest in. Then the final reason, which we just covered, was the ability to pick your players. That's the perfect channel for targeted planning. So as I say, we've only really scratched the surface today by beginning to tease out the differences in audience for Roblox, Pokemon Go, and Clash of Clans. Because in Iris, we measure literally hundreds of games, and each game or combination of games can help you to reach the right audience at the right time with the right messaging. It's all just a case of tapping into the mobile gaming audience. So that actually concludes the presentation section of today's webinar. We will, of course, be sharing the deck with attendees, hopefully by the end of this week. And in the deck, you should be able to find both mine and Ed's contact details, which are on the screen now. So if there's any questions that we don't get the chance to answer today, if you don't get the chance to ask, feel free to reach out to us and we're more than happy to help. But on the subject of questions, we do have our Ipsos Iris marketing lead, Oliver, in the room, who's been keeping an eye on any questions coming through. So we'll throw over to him now to see if there's anything that Ed and I need to answer. Oliver.
Thanks, Matt. We've got a couple of questions come in actually around, maybe we start with yourself, Matt. You've talked about the profile of individual games today, but can you look at the profiles across groups of games?
I think I'm just unmuting myself. Yeah, you can, in short. I think I mentioned it at the very end of the presentation there, that yes, a lot of what we focus on today is the individual gaming profiles, but within the UI and Ipsos Iris, we can of course combine those games into groups. You kind of analyze those to your heart's content. So you can look at the total reach of groups of games. You can look at how the audience might look across, 4, 5, 10 games, however much you want to kind of put together to see what they look like as a collective. And even within that, you can work out the incremental reach of those games. So you can see which players are exclusively visiting certain games to work out what will that mean if you kind of plan across 5, 10, 15 games, as I say. Adding each one will add kind of X amount to your total reach or to your audience, and how might that affect the overall profile? So I think the short answer is yes, you can aggregate games together to look at what the collective reach is in the UI.
Fab. We've got another one, probably again for yourself, Matt. Can you see more detailed data about when players are playing? For example, what time of day, what else they might be doing at the same time? So second screening, I guess, perhaps.
So yes, again, the answer is to a large extent you can. So I suppose Iris is sort of in two parts. So we have the UI, which is kind of the main piece at the moment, where we have a day parts report. So obviously today I covered kind of the daily audience, but you can see within that by kind of 4 segments throughout the day when players are more or less likely to be playing. I think I did look at that actually for the 3 games we looked at. And I think Clash of Clans may have skewed towards kind of late night and kind of early morning, for example. So yes, you can absolutely break that down further in the UI, and as I say, into those 4 segments. But then kind of behind the UI, we have like that huge clickstream data set of the 10,000 panelists, where we'd be able to see kind of to the nearest second kind of when people are playing mobile games. So at a high level, absolutely, we can see it. But then, as I say, within that clickstream data set, we can see it to incredibly kind of granular level. I think the second part of the question is about what else are they doing at the same time. So no, we can't necessarily see if they're dual screening unless they're on their mobile phone, they're also on their laptop at the same time. I guess if we cover both those devices, we could see that. But if they're watching TV, for example, we wouldn't be able to see that in their data. But again, we would be able to see what they're doing immediately on their device before playing the game. So if they were streaming something on Netflix on their phone and then they play the game, we'd be able to see that kind of journey. Or if they left the mobile game to go to a retailer, for example, again, we'd be able to kind of plot out the digital journey there in terms of if they were playing the game, visited a retailer, came back to play the game. Within that clickstream data set, we can map out their journey, again, in great detail. So within the UI, yes, we can break it down into day parts. And then within that clickstream data set behind the scenes, we can see kind of every tap and click that they're making. So yes, we can plot in a lot more detail kind of what they're doing on those devices where they're playing the games as well.
Brilliant. We've got a few more here, maybe some for yourself, Eduardo, around any thoughts on the capabilities for mobile gaming advertising? It can be a barrier for investing more in mobile game ads.
Interesting. Okay, well, I think we have seen through the presentation kind of how the evolution and the video game player overall profile has made an evolution. But definitely what has done mobile app gaming is a revolution to the gaming ecosystem inside out. I think therefore, mobile app gaming has established a free-to-play business model within the full video game ecosystem. Based on that, I think mobile app gamers are expecting somehow some level of advertising when they are enjoying their games. And at this point, there are two key points that need to work simultaneously. One is relevance, and the other one is execution. With one without the other, basically the advertising will fail and not be successful. Relevance, I'm talking about basically in terms of is something that I naturally enjoy or something that actually I'm looking for. And in terms of execution is how the ad is presented to me and actually just make sense of it. It's enjoyable, it's remarkable. And I think within the webinar today, Matt definitely show how some tips to embrace relevance to your audience using mobile app gamers or within app gaming audiences to position your brand with a high probability of being relevant to them. Also, I think within Ipsos, there is another larger team that is about creative excellence, who lead in all this kind of creative and execution and how to blend all these to better communicate and position your brand to this key audience. Therefore, I think within Ipsos, we got a really good, strong say about how can brands deliver and deliver well their advertising to this mobile audience.
Thanks, fantastic. And there's a follow-up here in the Q&A. What about in-game advertising within consoles and PC gaming as opposed to mobile?
I need to unmute myself. Okay, interesting. I think within the console and PC gaming, I think the model business is slightly different, or the business model is slightly different. I think console is pay to play. So in other words, gamers purchase the game and then enjoy it. And therefore you don't want to be interrupted by multiple advertising getting through. So despite that, advertising still happens within these ecosystems. I think it usually happens as a product placement or maybe brand endorsements. Also, it's a little bit more endemic, so it's more about the outlets of the environment just to embrace the realistic feeling of the video game. Therefore, the advertising models here are slightly different, and they're talking more about dynamic placement and game banners. But I think, only fewer publishers, media agencies are working to really personalize that based on the audience who was actually playing that game at the time. And definitely it's potential, but it has to be very concealed. When we talk about PC gaming, I think this is a little bit more permissive. I think, and it's also depending on the model that they're following. It's about the free to pay or the pay to play. And then basically this defines how the model will heavily define advertising strategy on those devices. So hopefully I answered the questions again.
We've got a few more in the chat, and we've got a few more minutes to go through, which is great. This is probably one for Matt here. Interesting analysis on the Roblox, Pokemon, etc. Is that a hybrid of app usage tracking and self-reporting data? Curious to see how that would look on the other side of the table for the 65 plus.
So no, as I alluded to earlier, that's all based on that panel, as I say, of 10,000 people, which are passively tracking across all devices that they have, which will be PC, laptop, tablet, or mobile phone. So obviously in the case of Pokemon Go, that'll be them playing either on their tablet or their mobile phone. And we're kind of passively tracking everything they do on those devices. So yeah, that won't be self-reported. That's all based on what we can see coming through from those devices from those Pokemon Go players. So absolutely, we can pull that similar data for 65 plus. I don't know how many people 65 plus are playing Pokemon Go and Roblox, but absolutely we would have that in the data set to be able to see how that compares to those young mobile gamers, for sure.
And one final question's come in just now, probably one for Eduardo. Do you know anything about players' behavior regarding monetization? So how many of them invest in the games that they're playing? Is that something that's tracked through GameTrack at the moment?
I think at overall level, what we saw in the presentation is monetization is basically defined by the business model of the game. Obviously, for certain devices, it's about the pay to play. You pay in advance, then enjoy the game. Definitely, and it's something that we saw, like mobile gaming is the evolution of the audience. Free to play and mobile app gaming revolutionized the sector. And monetization has really changed since 2012, where we have seen the video game market. I think in-app purchases, in-game purchases has come to light and revolutionized the overall sector. And one of the key things driving that is mobile app gaming. Now it's a currency is pretty certain that the overall revenue generated by mobile gaming is through in-app purchases. Just a small proportion of that revenue is for games that you pay in advance and then enjoy. Therefore, monetization is far stronger now. I think it's more about how you not only sell that game that people enjoy, but actually how you sell the overall augmented experience of the game. Yeah, you do your achievements and then you progress and create a new world or a new tournament or a new challenge that can be then accessed or actually paid for to get that extra experience to the overall gamer population. So definitely monetization has been stronger, has built, and has created a merge of different business models. But the most important thing, there has to be truly meaningful for the game, for the gamer, and for the experience.
Fantastic. And I think that brings us directly to time. So thank you both for your time today. I feel like we could talk about this all day. Unfortunately, I'm sure we have plenty of meetings to get on with, unfortunately. Thank you, everyone who tuned in. The recording and the slides will be circulated in due course, so watch out for your emails and on the Ipsos UK LinkedIn page for that as well. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today.